from Red Maple Homestead, and she's got a really great presentation started for us. So I think everyone's going to be really interested. Jeanette, take it away.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys. This is, I think, the very first producer profile that the district is doing. So I'm very honored to be here tonight and wanting to tell you about our farm. Can everybody see my screen? Is that okay? So our sheep story begins in May of 2015 when we moved to the farm. It's just a very small 10-acre farm and didn't have the plans already finalized when we moved in. So there was a little bit of discussion as to what we would be doing. But we definitely wanted to have fencing, and we immediately built a barn during that summer and fall. We decided on Canadian Archives, and we got them in November. And just a month after we got them, we cleaned them up for to clean up the wool, and we had our first shearing that December. So I couldn't let all that wool go to waste, and looked for a way to use that wool. And I was very fortunate that I found a local spinner, and she learned me wool processing as well as spinning, and I will be eternally grateful to her. She also got me to volunteer at the Holstein Maple Fest and got involved in the community right away. Things progressed, and I got my first weaving loom in 2017. So been at it for a while. So these are some pictures of our very first shearing, and you can see Jake doing the honors there. The middle picture is how I keep track of what my girls produce from a year-to-year basis. I save a lock as well as the details as to the fleece size, the year, so that I can build up a history of what the sheep produce. And yeah, that's just a nice picture of the girls. So then the sheep moved very well. We love our sheep. And last year, we milked one ewe, and we had a little butter baby, and we made soap. But this year, because of COVID, there was no craft shows, so I was a bit in a pickle. I had to decide, what the heck am I going to do to at least make some money? My husband works full-time, and so I do have a little bit of leeway, but I want to earn my keep. So we have a kitchen that's attached to our farm store, and we had it inspected by public health in the spring. Initially, the idea was to make jams and jellies and try and sell that at the farmer's market. But then Tanya Golan put up her big milking pump for sale, and I was struggling with the small little one that I had. So of course, I bought the big pump, and then you can't have a big pump and only milk one ewe. So all the rest of the girls I got them onto the milking stand. And so this year I milked 8 ewes, and whatever didn't go to the bottle babies made cheese. And the way we fed to the pigs, and it makes amazing bacon. So our cheese, I have about 6 cheeses that I currently make. The first one is the farmstead. It is very similar to a nice, robust aged cheddar. It has the typical feel in the mouth of a sheep milk cheese. Once you've had sheep milk, you will know that taste that it leaves in the mouth. The next one I make is the Manchego style cheese. Now, Manchego is a cheese from Spain, and it is the same as you would have champagne, that you cannot say that it's only in that region that you can say that you have Manchego cheese. So that's why it's the Manchego style. It's a delicious, mild eating cheese, and it goes with everything. You can eat it on the table, and you can also use it in food, like the farmstead. The next one I make is the saffron. It is very mild, and that is just a beautiful eating cheese that you would have with crackers, with some fruit. I would say that is the staple of a cheese board. Then I also make a feta, and we love a hard feta. Now, some people like a softer feta that sort of melts into the whey. And for us, our eating style is more of the hard feta that you can crumble into a salad, and it's nice and salty, so it really balances out your salads. And when you use it on a pizza, it's very unmistakable that it's sheep feta. Then I also make a Wensleydale. That one is English style cheese, and it's tart. And when you first taste it, or if you taste it by itself, you will say that it's not a very nice cheese. It's tart, and it's nothing like the Manchego. But then you add a slice of fruitcake with it, and the whole story changes. It almost tastes like you have this big slab of butter that you've added onto your fruitcake, and the flavor is just fantastic. I specifically went and bought some fruitcake mix to test out their theory, because I learn everything from the internet. And sure enough, the Wensleydale is a beautiful cheese to use in baking, and as I say, to eat it with your fruitcake, but alone, not so nice. And then the last one is the Alvino that I make, and that's actually the picture that I have there. It literally means drunken sheep, and we got a nice red wine, and you actually soak the cheese for 2 or 3 days at a time in that, and the more you soak it, the more it would just infuse the cheese. Really also a very nice cheese. I have a fun fact for you guys. I have people that stop at my store, and they will say, oh, we want pecorino, just pecorino, or brevis. And so then I have to do a little bit of an education. Pecorino is the Italian word for sheep milk cheese. It's generic, and so it's when you go to a Pecorino Romano, then it's a specific type of cheese. But if somebody just says, I want a pecorino, it's just generic sheep milk cheese. Same thing for brevis. Brevis is the French word for sheep milk cheese, and queso is the Spanish word for cheese. So if you hear somebody saying that, they love a Brabus. It just means that they've had the introduction through a French style sheep milk cheese, and that's basically it. So wanted to share some sheep milk facts with you guys. It is very gentle on the digestive system. And so let me see if I can move that. So it has a lot of the milk solids. And so, for example, if I make a 12-liter batch of cheese, the cheese I would get out of the 12 liters of milk is a 4-pound cheese. That is an 18% yield. If I were to use goat or cow's milk, I can only get a 10 to 11% yield out of that. And it's because of the high amount of solids in the sheep milk. So much more energy. We all know that. It's more iron, calcium. So it is a good alternative, especially for people with allergies. Sheep milk is not as easily obtainable as goat milk, but more and more people are getting aware of the sheep milk, and so who knows, maybe we'll even see some changes. Now, the site that I got this information from is actually they make a powdered milk, so just like baby formula, but from sheep milk, which is pretty amazing. So the point I'm trying to make whenever I speak to fellow farmers is that each of us as a producer need to create demand for our product. We own that part. It's not the Ontario Sheep Farmers Association that's responsible for that. It's not Canada Sheep. Nobody is more responsible for creating demand than us. So we have to eat lamb. We have to share recipes. When you entertain, what do you have on the menu? How can you introduce people to experience lamb and maybe next time to buy lamb and eat lamb? So when somebody tells me that they're a sheep farmer and they don't like lamb, that's a problem. And also if they say that they can't afford to eat their own lamb, that's also a problem, because we expect consumers to pay our prices. And so we have to set the example. Same thing for sheep milk. Try it. It's a mild taste. When you can, try the yogurt. It's delicious. And the other thing is sheep milk soap. Instead of buying the goat milk soap, try and locate somebody that makes sheep milk soap. And it's really good for your skin. It is very moisturizing. It is a really nice product. And then lastly, creating demand for our wool. If we as producers start wearing it and we use it in home furnishings, it can make a whole big difference. So a little bit of the wool facts, and I know everybody is aware of them, but it still is good to just reiterate that. It's naturally flame resistant. So think of a fireplace rug, guys. Whenever a hot coal falls out, it just smothers and dies instead of when you have these polyester rugs or even wood flooring, it just, it protects and it's beautiful too. It can absorb a third of its weight of water without feeling wet. So in that case, think of a bathroom or a shower mat. These wool rugs are just so absorbent and it's just, it doesn't feel wet. Somebody can shower ahead of you and the bath mat is still perfectly dry. It's naturally anti-static. So think dryer balls. How can we use dryer balls? A lot of people still use dryer sheets, the bouncy dryer sheets, but shifting over to use dryer balls in your drying cycle takes out the static. It doesn't add those harmful chemicals to your environment. And it's known that these bouncy sheets actually form a residue on your dryer, and sometimes it causes fires. So wool to the rescue. Use dryer balls. The other thing is that it balances thermal insulation. So people say, oh, you can't wear wool in summer. Well, that's not true. It is cool in summer, actually. And so if you think work boot socks, they will absorb all your sweat and it stays cool, which is perfect. And then in winter, it keeps your feet warm as well. There's people that make duvets and blankets and pillows, and this is exactly the reason why they use wool. And then it's hypoallergenic, it's resistant to bacteria and mildew. So again, think of wool for a bath mat, for a baby blanket and pillows. So when you do decide that you're going to jump and use some of your wool for processing, it is important to know that you have to keep your wool as clean as possible. If the sheep just rolled in a bale of straw, it makes it really, really hard for the mill to give you a good product back. The other thing, I know shavings are very nice to keep your sheep dry and for barn purposes. But if you're thinking about the wool for processing, those shavings are really hard to get out of the wool. You can also make sure that you ask your shearer to do minimal second cuts. It is sometimes easy to go back and clean a sheep because they look so much nicer, but you have to realize that those second cuts, when it comes into your wool, makes for a very difficult processing, number one, which costs you more. But then also the product that you're going to get is, garbage in, garbage out. And then to skirt really well. If you send in wool, don't send in the belly wool or the matted stained edges, or if there's areas with really a lot of vegetable matter or manure tags, don't send those in, because at the mill you pay for the dirty weight. So if they're going to wash out a whole bunch of manure or throw out a whole bunch of wool, you are basically wasting your money. So whenever you send in wool, it's best to send in just the best and the cleanest stuff. So here is some pictures of wool that I've done. I'm a hand spinner, and my drum carder, and then on the right-hand side is my loom. My rug loom is a continuous warp. So what you see there is 240 spools of cotton, and that is what I use for the rug warp. And it saves me a lot of time. I do a lot of rugs, and if I have to every week rewarp my loom, that is 1 day wasted. So having the loom continuously warped has given me 1 day back a week. So really happy to have that. And we only did that about 2 months or so ago. So the offer I have for you sheep farmers is, if you have a pet lamb, maybe a 4-H lamb, or you just want to see how this wool business works, I can make you a small rug or a large rug, and it's a small enough investment that you can get used to using wool and see how it behaves before you invest in large and expensive pieces. The campaign for wool has worked with I think it's Breezy Ridge, and there's some really expensive rugs out there that you can buy, but the offer I want to put out to everybody is just a small, fairly cheap product, or a rug, and see how you enjoy wool, and where next can you implement wool in your home. So that's basically what I wanted to say to everybody, and I would love to answer some questions.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Steve Ernewine here.
Yeah.
Lisa wants to know if you got our rugs done yet.
I do. I have. I've been very fortunate that Steve brought a whole big bag of wool, and I made 10 rugs for Lisa. And she said in the beginning, I asked how involved she wanted to be in the creative process, and she said, no, have fun, go at it. And so I think she's going to be really pleased with what I made.
Another comment about going to Jeanette's place is like getting haircuts at friends' houses. You usually end up drinking their beer too.
That's true too.
Yeah, had some wine and beer.
Eat cheese.
Yeah, cheese was really good.
No, Jeanette, that was absolutely wonderful. I do have a few questions, but if anybody else wants to go first, other than Steve and Lisa.
It's Bridget here. I do have a question. Do you strictly work with wool from meat breeds, or have you ever worked with wool from wool breeds?
I have worked with wool breeds as well. I love spinning merino. I have some merino cashmere that I'm spinning at the moment, and it's just gorgeous stuff. So yeah, I have used some wool breeds as well, and we have some really fantastic wool sheep around, so trying to get that word out to the hand spinners as well, as much as I can.
Okay.
That
Because I
actually
have
leads
wool.
really well into one question I have for you is I know we have Jacobs and they're really low lanolin. So how would you deal with that in terms of even making dryer balls and stuff? It's can be quite difficult.
Yeah, some wool doesn't felt as easy as others. I've had a lot of success with getting lanolin out. I have a washing machine dedicated just to my wool, and so first off, the process that I follow is first off I do a soak of just cold water, just to rinse as much as I can of the manure and the dirt to get that out of the way. And then I add hot water with Downy, Downy dish soap. And I do that twice. And then I would rinse at least twice or sometimes 3 times. So far, it's all worked. I have I've used it on even a wool fleece or a real, what was it, CBM that I used it on, and it worked really well. So and especially for the felted rugs that I make, you have a little bit more leeway. Because it does get felted at the end with hot water as well.
Cool. That's
I got another question.
Yep.
So we have British milk sheep now and the Dorsets and Rideau Arcots. Now you've worked with our Dorset wool. What is the British milk sheep? They have definitely a finer wool. Is that going to be better or worse, or because our what's that like to work with? Like a different, I don't know, understand wool that much.
Previously I did have a British milk sheep, and she gave me an 8-pound fleece, which is fantastic. And the staple was 3 or 4 inches long because I only sheared her once a year. Her wool was absolutely fantastic. The Dorset is a little bit shorter, I found, and but it spins just beautiful. It makes this beautiful white wool. Quibus, can you pass me that skein? I will show you a skein of Steve's Dorset on the chair. Oh. Okay, on the table over there. Okay, so here you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, but this skein hasn't been washed, and it is just the most beautiful white wool, and it is so soft and it spins really easy. And this is the Dorset. I don't have a skein of the British milk sheep. I would say that the British milk sheep is a little bit coarser, or the one that I had was definitely coarser than what we have in the Dorset.
That wool you have of ours would have been harvested in the summer months when the ewes were likely just off pasture and sheared, right? So it's probably been washed already outside though too, right? Compared to harvesting this time of year where they've been in confinement for the winter.
Yes. I find that the sheep that do pasture the whole year, the wool is overall much cleaner and much easier to process than confined sheep.
We brought you black fleeces also. Does it make a difference? Like, did it any difference or look different?
Yes, very different. You brought 2 black fleeces, and the one was shorter. It was only about a 3-inch long and very coarse. The other one was more of a gray sheep and very soft and just as good as the white Dorset fleece that you gave me. Yeah, same. So, people say that normally the black sheep, that wool is not usable, which isn't quite true. It truly depends on sometimes the individual sheep, just to go on the name of a breed of sheep isn't always the right thing to do either.
How much are the pillows?
35.
Soft and everything?
And it's completely washable. Yeah.
Just get you to put a 4-H logo on it, eh?
Good idea. Good idea. So one of the other things I did is I bought a pillow from Long Way Homestead. I think it's Long Way Homestead, yes. And they're out in, I think, Saskatchewan. And they have these wool pillows. And I think Romy has them too. And it is fantastic to sleep on. I think we have something there that we have to investigate further. It's not cheap. I think all in all, it was very close to $100 per pillow. But man, it's nice. So nice.
Well, I've got a bit of a more question about your operation. So did you purchase your farm for the commercial kitchen, or was that just like a nice bonus?
It was a sort of a bonus. When we moved out of the city, I was actually going to do a bakery on the farm. And things didn't quite work out, but I did have the kitchen, and it sat idle literally for 5 years. And yeah, so things have a way of working out, and I much preferred the cheese to doing cakes anyway. So I'm pretty happy with where I am at the moment.
Yeah, I have about 1 million questions about the cheeses. I've only ever done like a fresh farmer's cheese. I've always wanted to kind of expand into doing something else. Could you go over kind of a little bit of your process through making the harder cheeses? You don't have to go into detail, but just a quick kind of overview would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live in Mennonite country, and so I can literally go down the road and buy my cheese cultures. So how nice is that? So I have a mesophilic, they call it a mesophilic culture, and I have rennet. So you would take a quantity of milk. My batch size is 12 liters. And the book that I use is between 10 to 16 liter recipes. So for a 12-liter milk, I would gently heat it up to the temperature that the recipe requires. And if I make a manchego, it's about 29 degrees that I need. So if I was to milk and bring it straight in, it's by the time it gets into the house, it's about the correct temperature, but I do measure it with a thermometer. Then you would add the amount of the culture that the recipe calls for. And because a lot of the recipes that I follow, I use raw milk. It is a 1/4 teaspoon that you would add to 12 liters. So you would just sprinkle it on top, wait for it to rehydrate, and then stir it into the milk. Then there is a wait time. So cheese making is a lot of waiting in between. Depending again on the recipe, it can be as quick as 20 minutes, or it can be as long as an hour and a half. You have to let it ripen. And then at that point, you would add a certain amount of rennet. And because sheep milk has an enzyme that goat and cow milk doesn't have, you use half of the rennet that you would use for cow milk. And you would stir that in. And again, according to the recipe, you would wait. That then coagulates the milk. And once you have a good solid mass, you would cut the curds. You literally go in there with a knife and you would cut the curds. You would cut it in blocks, and depending on the recipe, you would either cut it like 1-inch blocks, or you can go down and cut it as small as a grain of rice. So for those cheeses, you would actually use a whisk, and you would really go at that curd to break it up. And the purpose of that is to release the whey. And after you cut it, you would, again, depending on the recipe, you would let it rest. And sometimes you have to heat the milk or the curds with a whey. You have to heat that up again to a certain temperature. And once you have the curds firm enough that when you press it, it looks like the curds that you've all eaten on poutine. Once the curd is nice and firm, you then, again, depending on the recipe, you would either scoop it out into a form, or you would drain it through cheesecloth. And then, or you can, and at that point, you can either add salt, or you can just put it into your cheese form and press it so that you get the nice round cheese. Sometimes you have to press it only for 6 hours, or sometimes you can go up to 2 or 3 days, depending on how dense the cheese is. The manchego, when you cut it, is full of holes, and you only press that one for about 6 hours, whereas the farmstead, you go at that one for 2 days with quite heavy weights, because you want this very dense cheese. And then, for instance, the manchego, you would take out of the mold and put it in a saline solution. I think it's 18% saline solution. And depending on how long you leave it in there is going to affect how salty the cheese is that you end up with. And when it comes out of the brine, you would dry it off for about 2 days, and then it would go into the cheese cave. My process, I package mine, I vacuum seal mine in plastic to ripen, because I just don't have the resources at this time to create a cheese cave with the correct humidity and temperature. That's quite an investment. So my cheese cave is just a wine fridge, and I would vacuum seal it in a plastic bag. And I age, depending on the cheese, it can go for 2 months. The saffron cheese, which is very, very mild, is ready within 4 weeks. Whereas the farmstead and the manchego, the longer you leave it, it's just a beautiful flavor. The longer you leave it, that develops. And then every time you cut it, you wonder, is this one going to be good? And so when you take it out and you cut it, you would smell it. Make sure that it smells like cheese. If something went wrong in the process, you would know. It would smell off, and different types of bacteria, like salmonella, for instance, has a very specific color on the mold. So, again, so if something went wrong and you see fluorescent yellow mold on your cheese, that cheese, you either have to age it much more, because I think the fluorescent yellow is the salmonella, and then there's a pink as well. So it's a lot of science, but it's also a lot of common sense. You have to keep everything very, very clean. But when you have your kitchen inspected, one of the things, you have to have a food handler certificate. And in that, it teaches you about your bleach solution, about your different sinks and how to use that. How to clean. And I think we as farmers have that already ingrained in us, because we with animal husbandry, we have to pay attention to the detail. So when you get to eat it, it's amazing. And I've done a few batches now. I was actually able to repeat the good cheeses, which is a really good thing.
I very much understand that. I really appreciate the wine fridge cheese, Gabe. I totally get that. My only other question is, do you take interns and do you pay in cheese?
I would not have a problem teaching anybody to make cheese. I think it's a skill that we've lost. It was a very basic skill that everybody used to have, and we've gone away from that. So the more we can teach each other to use the basic skills again, and appreciate the basic things from our farms, the better it is for all of us, I think.
Okay.
Lisa says she wants to know how much milk we have to bring over in May when we start milking to get her lesson.
Perfect. 12 liters.
Well, we'll bring 24 just in case it screws up.
Sounds good. Well, we can do 2 different types of cheeses with that, right? We can do a farmstead, which is one process, and then we can do another one. I can also put it out there. I can do a Zoom cheese meeting, where I can walk people through. I can do that, certainly. At the moment, what I do is I have a cheese tasting, where I give it's almost like a 3-course meal. I've divided it up into an appetizer and sort of a main meal, and then a dessert with the different cheeses together with the accompaniments that would go well with each cheese. And if you do it in person in the kitchen, I even let you have some alcohol-free wine. I'm not licensed, so I can't have the real deal, but at least you get the idea of a good white wine, how it pairs with the saffron. with the ricotta. The one thing I didn't talk about is ricotta. So when you make your cheese in that way that I talked about, that we want out of the cheese curds, you would take that and make ricotta. And it's not something that I grew up with, definitely not. I'm much more used to cream cheese or the various other ones, but ricotta was not one that I grew up with. So you would boil the whey and add some vinegar to that and let it cool. And there's almost like a second curd that forms that you would drain through a cheesecloth. And I let mine drain for overnight. And then you can use it in cheesecake. There's some really nice recipes I'm starting to play with for pound cakes and just all kinds of amazing recipes that you can use ricotta for. And then that whey that is left behind after you take out the ricotta is what we feed to the pigs. And so sheep milk is really very profitable because out of 12 liters, you get 4 pounds of hard cheese and you get 2 pounds of ricotta. So at the moment, I, for instance, sell at $2.50 an ounce for my hard cheese. So that is, what did we say, $90 a kilo? Okay. About $90 a kilo that I get for my hard cheese. And then I still have my ricotta that I can sell for an additional, I think it's an additional $6 or $8 a pound for that. So compared to goat milk, for instance, that's a lot of money that you get out of your milk.
You hurt my heart a little bit throwing all the whey out to the pigs. I totally understand that, but we use it in baking and especially in pancakes. It's fantastic.
I will try it. Yeah, I've seen the recipes, and there's even a whey caramel that you can make, and it sounds amazing. I just haven't had the time. You take that last whey, and you would literally boil it down like maple syrup, and you end up with caramel. You don't have to add any sugar. There's enough sugar in the whey, and you end up with caramel. It's amazing.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to try that. That does sound amazing.
Any other questions?
Oh, my only last question with the dryer bowls is we've got a couple of Jack Russell Terriers, and I love dryer bowls, but they always steal them. Has anyone ever figured out a way to make that not happen?
Yes, my son does extensive traveling into the States, and he'll open his suitcase and he'll let me know that he's accidentally packed 2 or 3 of my dryer balls, and then I've got to go hunt down more. So I totally understand, and it normally gets stuck in a pan somewhere.
Teenagers and Jack Russells are about the same.
Yeah, yeah. So my question to the group is, how have you been using wool?
I know for our farm that I generally sell it to a friend of mine that has a small wool business and a small yarn and notions kind of business, and does quite a good job with that, and everything else kind of goes off to hand spinners. So that's always been a very extra nice little bump for us.
Yes, that's great. And I think, as you know, if we can get our meat sheep to start earning their shearing costs, that would be so amazing if we can get back to that place.
Yeah, I sell skirted fleeces because I switched from meat sheep to wool sheep last year. So yeah, I'm starting to sell fleeces to spinners that want to
Excellent.
create their own.
What sheep do you have, Bridget?
Gotland.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, those are absolutely fantastic sheep. It's you did good. Yeah, there's quite a bit of money to be made in a Gotland fleece.
Yeah, I really like the animals too. But I
Hey,
got
hey, Bridget, plus a couple,
Hey.
you know, Jacob and Jacob
No, I was
crosses.
just gonna say, Vanessa, I have a few Jacobs off Vanessa's herd too, and I like them. Actually, somebody bought Rufus's fleece, Vanessa. So
Oh, that's
he's
wonderful.
a purple. Yeah, he's a lilac Jacob. So yeah. So no, and I still have 7 of the commercial ones. So I have all different types of. And in my neck of the wood, people like the black fleeces for some reason. So kind of cool.
I have found the same thing, and I know that Karen has as well, but they love the natural colors. So I fully appreciate the question about the white fleeces. It's very true, because the white fleeces are so much easier to dye. You could make them any color you want. But around here, we found that those natural colors, they sell pretty well, even if they're quite dark.
Yeah, it's true. So I guess it's a regional. But Steve, your wool looks really nice. Like the Dorset, that looks really nice.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So you used our black wool. You mixed it in with the black rugs, like the one in the picture here. Is that the way you did it?
Yes. Whenever I have black available, I prefer to do it the way it's in the picture. And actually, I'm not sure if you saw on Facebook, but I took a chance, and one of your rugs is actually all black with just a little bit of white in it. And that one came out pretty nice too.
Okay. The one problem with our meat sheep is we accelerate lamb, right? So we're shearing every 8 to 9, 10 months, whatever, right? So that is an issue we have with having a good fleece out of the Dorset, right?
True, but you can still make some really nice yarn with a 2-inch fleece. You know, it doesn't have to be a 4-inch to really spin up nice. You can still get really nice wool from a 2-inch.
So, Steve, when you were saying that when you shear every, you said 6 months?
No, we shear prior to lambing every time, right? So we're about to lamb on January 7th, and we'll shear on December 20th, 21st, or whatever, right? 3 weeks prior to lambing.
So how old is that fleece?
Like our lambing interval is anywhere from 220 to 270 days. So that's 7 to 9 months, our averages. Does that make sense? Did we lose Zoom or what? Why, I wasn't muted, right?
No. I heard you.
Okay. I'm not over here swearing or nothing because I'm thinking, hey.
No, it's all good. And I think for the meat sheep, you know, if we take it small steps and as I say, with a low investment basically and low risk, that you can see how your sheep behaves, then then we'll take baby steps and we'll get people more used to wool. Because I can tell you now that pillow that I bought from Longway Homestead, that wool in there is maybe a 2-inch. So really, we can use the meat sheep wool for more than what we have in the past. We just have to get that mindset, get the clean wool going. And what in the past, what's been a problem is the processing capacity, having access to somebody to actually do it for you. Because if you go to these big mills, they want 500 pounds. And that's a huge investment and a huge risk. Where what I'm saying is, take a chance, take one fleece, let's work on it and see how you like it.
Okay, so help me sort out my wool. We have 1,000+ fleeces a year, okay? So I can pick a few. You want it clean, so best shearing, select our wool from the summertime when they've been outside,
Yes.
What about ewe lambs? Is the ewe lamb wool, that yellow wool, does that make it bad, or like that, like they have a tendency to have longer fleeces than what our ewes would?
I think it's still okay. I haven't seen that the ewes are the ewe lambs are any worse than the ewes. If anything, I think that first cut would be really, really soft. And Bridget, you can chime in here if you have some information on that as well.
The thing about the fleece is like a barometer of your sheep's health. So if the animal, sometimes the animals are sick and we don't realize. So when you do the stress test with your wool, like you take what's the word I'm looking for?
A lock. It's a lock.
Thank you. Yeah, a lock, and you twist it and you shake it and you look for that ping, or you look for it not to break in your hands when you're doing that. The higher it pings, the better. The thing about the ewe lamb fleece, sometimes, from what I understand, is that because they're spending so much of their energy on growing, sometimes it will be to the detriment of their fleece. So the fleece may be a bit more brittle. But I mean, there's some spinners, they love what you call virgin wool, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're like totally excited by it. So you do have a market for it. So that would be how you would know. But I don't think it's bad per se. It's just usually it's longer, because usually, I don't know if you let your ewe lambs for 10 months, a year before you shear them. But that would be the only difference, would be the length of the staple, I think. But if not, there's definitely a market for ewe lamb wool. That helps, Steve?
I don't know if anything helps me. It's Mama Bear we got to talk to, okay? I'm just running the remote. I'll try to pick out better wool next year. Then I'll try to pick out some real nice stuff and long fleeces, and we'll do a better job.
Well, the stuff that I processed here was amazing. It was 100%. There was absolutely nothing wrong with what I worked with.
Basically, what you're looking for in your sheep's wool at the very basic level is a really good, like, crinkle cut French fry. So peel back the wool on your sheep. That's basically what you're looking for, is a really good crinkle cut fry.
Yeah, crimpy, like the crimp. Yeah. But to be honest, your Dorset, Steve, those are down breeds, and they're excellent for what Jeanette's making. Rugs, pillows, I would say socks, even, like short, like that's what they're known for. So obviously, but yeah, rely on what Jeanette, the feedback you get from her, but Yeah,
Yeah,
depends on what you want to do. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. I'm not sure if you guys can see here, but here you can see the difference in crimp. So this one here is a merino, and that one would have 12 kinks per inch. The next one up is the Romney. The next one up is the Romney, and it would have 6 kinks. Whereas the very last one is the Lincoln, and that one only has 3. So you can see how the crimp, as they call it, would influence the fineness. So you can see the merino against the Lincoln, and just that softness and the way that it behaves. Where does the Gotland lie, Bridget?
Good question. It felts easily. So it's definitely more on the felting side. I'm fairly new at it. I would have to go grab my book. I'll be back. Hang on.
I have to say, I'm really enjoying this. This is very much my kind of sheep chatter.
Excellent.
It's been wonderful. I am so hungry for some really good cheese right now. Just those
I
all
know.
look
She made me
delicious. We
hungry.
definitely need to have you back up in District 10 at one point. We have to bring a tasting menu up and do a little demonstration. That sounds wonderful. I know we've got a new dairy farm up in Smith Falls area that they're just starting out, but
Excellent. And Steve got Tanya Golan sheep, so we'll definitely see more, maybe more local milk around. Where exactly are you guys, Vanessa?
we're between kind of Brockville, Smith Falls, over to Ottawa, and then from Ottawa to the Quebec border and back over to the U.S. border and around. So us specifically, like our farm is about 30, 40 minutes south of Ottawa, like downtown Ottawa. So is Bridget. She's around the corner from me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So basically, my Gotlands, they're not 100% Gotlands, the one I got, but they're fairly high percentage Gotland. So I have one. She's 81% Gotland. She's very crimpy, and that's like her. They look like Goldilocks, and I just love the feel of her wool. The pure Gotland, she's got a bit coarser, not as crimpy. But basically, they don't talk about the crimpy. They say the staple length is between 3 inches and 7 inches. At 7, it would be like you haven't sheared them for a year. I shear mine twice a year. I found a second, there was like the meat I usually sheared only once. So for me, that was new to do 2 shearings. So the staple was not as long the second time, nor was the fleece holding together as well. But I was quite pleased with the fact I had very little VM, and it was like on that. So it's still learning. Like I say, I got my sheep in December last year, and they lambed this spring, and so now I have I had 2 ram lambs, but they were not very high on the Gotland side, so I had them neutered, for lack of a better word, castrated. But it's all the different hues of gray that I find very fascinating. Like it goes from a silver gray to black, and then there's that steel gray in the middle, and it's just amazing. But yeah, I have some that are very crimpy. The ones that have a bit more fin sheep in them tend to be more crimp, and the pure one, she's more still crimpy, but not as much, if that makes any sense.
Now, when it comes to us and dairy ewes, we're going to shear twice a year, I think, too. just because it's all new to us. But I think we're going to shear twice a year because I don't want to be milking sheep and wool. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. What breed are you getting for milk sheep, Steve?
We bought 100 British milk sheep. We bought a whole ongoing operation.
Okay, because I have the field guide to fleeces, and it just lists from the Cotswold to the East Frisian. Like there's an emphasis. I'm just going to see if there's something about the British milk sheep in here.
Yes,
there is.
I can't speak to that breed specifically, but I know with the Jacobs, like us shearing twice a year makes a huge difference in the amount of wool they produce. So I might get 8 inches off in a year, but if I shear them twice, I'll get 4 inches off each time.
Yeah, I find sometimes the Jacobs too, when it gets really, really long, it wants to felt a little bit and it's not as fun. Yeah, so the British milk sheep, oh, sorry, Vanessa, you were going to say?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Okay. So basically, Steve, you should expect a fleece weight, and I don't know if it's per year or what, between 9 and 11 pounds, a staple length of 4.5 to 7 inches, and then the fiber diameter, which I'm still like it says 28 to 31 microns, but to me it doesn't ring a bell. I don't understand that.
It's very open wool compared to our Dorsets. I know that.
These fluff balls over the.
Yeah,
the shearing twice a year is just a management issue.
Sorry, a good merino is about a 15 micron, just for comparison. So when you think of a 15 compared to a 30, that's quite a big difference.
Okay, because the Gotlands are 27 to 35, and the lambs can be as fun as 18. So. Yeah.
The lambs, and that's why what you said about the virgin wool, people really like that.
Yeah.
Well, what you say about those more open fleeces is that you have to be more concerned about those sheep getting cold, right? It's the same thing with the goats. I'm having a total brain fart. The cashmere goats.
Oh, the Angora goats, you mean?
Yeah, it's the same thing where you've got that more open fleece and they're more susceptible to cold.
Okay. Yeah, see the British milk sheep, they said the best uses will be general purpose knitted or crocheted sweaters, hats, mittens, gloves, socks, and blankets. It is also an especially nice weaving yarn with a pleasant amount of loft and enough crispiness to work well, even in lace patterns. So it's good for a lot of things. Yeah, the Gotland's the thing, and then that's why I don't dare wash one myself, is it felts really, really easily. So that's one of the difficulties with Gotland, but it's so soft, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it felt so easily because the crimp's so high, or?
To be honest, Vanessa, if it grows to be too long, it will start, and if the animal is rubbing for some reason, it will start to literally felt on their bodies. Like it's wild. Like, but I don't know if it's the texture of it or, but all I know is it's the type that you almost look at it and it felts on you. Like, it's very, yeah, long, lustrous with a well-developed crimp. So I guess the Gotlands are noted for their crimp.
And see, we've got the opposite issue with the Jacobs. Is they never felt because they're so low lanolin, and the crimp is so there's a good crimp, but it's so open.
Yeah, because when I look at the fleeces on the 3 that I have from you, like it's a lot straighter as far as the fleece. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think my whole thing about the education for our meat sheep farmers is that wool is still useful.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the wool that we're getting out of New Zealand and Australia is actually, it can be very coarse. And that's why the campaign for wool used, in the past, they would use Australian wool and it would be coarse. And they found actually that this time around, when they made the rugs, the Ontario wool was finer and softer than the Australian wool.
No, that campaign for wool meeting that they put on was absolutely wonderful, and I've been looking for it to share it online because it was very, very good. And they had some really wonderful things to say about Canadian wool.
Exactly. Yes.
And just of which I absolutely agree with. It was a very nice thing to hear.
Yeah, our biggest problem is that we don't have processing capacity. That is literally our big downfall. In the States now, they make home insulation out of wool.
Mm-hmm. No, I know it's making home insulation out of wool is a very good thing in terms of something that is biodegradable to put into homes, but at the same time is such a shame because it's such a wonderful product.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is.
Exactly.
No, the campaign for Real Wool did a great job with that presentation. It was very, very cool to watch. I know they mentioned, if anybody has the link, like I know that it mentioned that it would be ready later that same day, but I have not seen it. So if anybody has it, please send it along.
Okay, I'll have a look if I have it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, I know. I watched the entire thing, and it was very cool to hear. Just so much enthusiasm for Canadian wool. And you're absolutely right that there's a lot of meat breeds that just, I know I started this fight a long time ago with people about how, I mean, we took a couple of Colleen Acres market lambs down last year to the Royal and sheared them off and like looked at the crimp and the wool and went, what are you doing with this? Like, who are you selling this to? What are you doing? Because there was some really beautiful crimp, some really beautiful lanolin, just like a very nice fleece there. That's just been, I don't want to disparage Colleen, but just it's being disregarded because it's so much easier to send it over to wool growers. And I will say honestly, this past year, that's the same thing that we have done because it's, the COVID stuff. But we are producing such high quality wool, and there a lot more of a spotlight needs to be shone on that stuff.
Yes, and we need to use it. That's the other thing is, the more we can use it, it shouldn't be a matter of us going to, wherever to buy a bath mat. It should be, no, not buy cotton, buy the wool, Same thing for those pillows from Long Way Homestead. They are really amazing. I can just imagine how nice that duvet is going to be, but first I need to make much more money to afford one of those. Now, I also know that Romy has a lot of the same things that Long Way has, but Romy processes 600 pounds at a time. That's a huge investment if you're not sure you're going to like the product.
Well, I'd like to hear more from you about that. Is taking stuff in through a wool mill. What are you looking for?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So as a woolen mill, what are you looking for as stuff that's coming in? What are you looking for? Do you want to make sure it's skirted or? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it needs to be properly skirted because like when you, for instance, if you take anything into Wellington Fibers, you pay on the weight that goes through the door. So the better job you do at skirting, you know, removing the non-value added wool that they're going to throw away anyway, it's better for you. And then even if you just use the sort of the not even the neck, if you use the back part, just the top back part, and really, you know, be very selective and use only that. If, I mean, people have hundreds of sheep, so you can literally just pick the nicest piece out to send to a wool mill. For me, because I work with 1 and 2 fleeces at a time for specific people, you know, I'm a little bit more forgiving in that I'll take the fleece and literally, you know, use the good stuff, because my aim is to educate. And that at this point, that's where my main focus is to get the wool used, to educate our farmers, and you know, and not intimidate them, because that's not a nice feeling for an experienced farmer to, you know, to feel that the wool isn't good enough. So on those 1 and 2 fleeces that I do process for them, I take some pretty dirty stuff and I make a rug for them.
I know for us it's always hard because we have such a low lanolin breed in the Jacobs. When we go to like spread it out, it basically all falls apart, but that's always been an issue for us.
Yeah.
A few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we took a bunch of wool up to a mill that was outside of Owen Sound, which is no longer there. And they actually made wool bats up for me that we then made into our own duvets, just using 2 sheets, and I tied them together. And we used it for a long time until wool started pulling away. But does anybody know anyone that does that anymore? Because I don't know anyone that does wool bats anymore.
I think Longway Homestead does that. And if everything goes well, I have purchased some processing equipment, and it is on the ship as we speak. And if everything goes well, I would be doing that in a much bigger scale starting in the new year.
I love that idea, and thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up. That sounds amazing. I know our duvet is about falling apart right now, so that'd be very cool.
So stay tuned. We'll see.
Well, and like Jeanette said, like we use that all year round, and you were never too hot in the summer and you were never cold in the winter. It was perfect.
Yeah.
No, Jeanette,
Lisa-
thank you so much. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments or?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming. My comment would be we need people like you to give us feedback, because I know I'm new to the wool side of the industry, and I'm counting on the spinners that buy my fleeces to get feedback from them so that I can better gear to what they need, and they can tell me, if you did this would help, if you did that. And that all that knowledge got lost. And the other thing too is I'm glad to hear that you're going to have some, you know, potentially spinning capacity or prepping capacity, because that's the other problem. In Eastern Ontario, we don't have a mill. So we have to ship further down. which in itself, but again, they want like huge amounts. And if it, like I only have like a handful of sheep, it would take me years to achieve what they want to. So no, if we can have access to people that allow for smaller quantities, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Now we do have Wellington Fibers here in, I think it's Elora. They do a fantastic job. The equipment that I'm getting is not spinning. I still have to, from the bats and the roving that I'll be making, I still have to hand spin. So, and that's where I'm thinking the pillows, the duvets, those are things that, you know, I can help farmers use their wool, and not even for them to sell, just use it yourself, you know, just have that love for wool and use it in your own home, because that is already a huge demand we can create. We are many sheep farmers, and we can create demand for our own product.
I was going to say, I don't normally look at myself as a wool producer, and when I hear you say my wool is nice to work with or something like that, it makes me kind of feel like it's like when you sell lamb to somebody and they compliment you on the best lamb they've ever had, right? So it maybe makes you challenge yourself to do a better job, because to me, wool has always been just, it's something we want on the sheep to winter them outside. But, you know, I'm not getting hair sheep by any means, but you know, it's always been just a byproduct. It's something you just, you know, I never added any value to it, and we should look different, I guess.
Yeah, and it's going to start with one farmer at a time, and I think we have started making that shift. We don't have to be snobs about the wool. We can really use the wool that we grow here and use it for what its purpose is, and it makes beautiful rugs, it makes beautiful furnishings, but please don't wear it around your neck, because you will hate me for it.
No, Jeanette, I have to say,
purpose.
That was absolutely wonderful. We're gonna have to you and I are gonna have to have a little chat, because we're gonna have to get you on YouTube. I want to see more about how your loom works. It looks so interesting. I don't want to bore everyone else, but that was incredibly cool. And I think there's a couple other people that are on here that would be very keen about that stuff.
Good. Yeah, I'll share more, and if you guys follow me on Facebook and, you know, ask questions, and I'll even do a short video on my loom. It's pretty slick. So thank you guys for having me. I had a great time. I hope I share enough, and yeah, we'll see where the wool equipment takes me when it comes in.
No, I remember when we set this up, and I said like, hey, maybe make a 45-minute talk, but we're not going to keep you on like 2 hours like the last guy. Okay, so I'm a liar.
Good.
But Vanessa muted herself. So yeah, we kept you for an hour and a half.
Yes.
It's all good.
Yeah, we did.
All good.
Yeah. It was very interesting, though.
It really was, and I think we've got a couple real keeners here, and I think you're talking to the right crowd. That was very cool. I know. I personally have your sheep milk to ricotta and hard milk cheese recipe written down over here. So
if you so there is a Facebook group. I have to think of the exact wording, but if you want, I can send you a link even to it. And the recipes are actually freely shared on there, so you don't even have to buy the book. They are, you know, it's freely shared, and I can even, send you a picture out of that book because the author has agreed to share her recipes. So it's no secret, and it's pretty delicious, and it's pretty fail safe because I can do it.
It sounds amazing. It really does. I am so keen on that kind of stuff. Like I said, I've only ever done farmer cheese. I've always wanted to do the harder cheeses and the physically harder cheeses, not the recipe harder cheeses.
Yeah, literally here by the Mennonite store, I buy the culture for $15, and it's about, I think it's 5 grams, and I use a 1/4 teaspoon every time. So I'm still on my very first bag, and I've made cheese for a year now. And the rennet is like $5.99 for 250 milliliters. So it's not the cost. It's not the cost that prevent us from doing it. I think it's more a matter of being unsure. It's like sourdough bread, we've lost that skill. And once you do it a few times, it becomes very natural. And yeah, it's much nicer than the cheese that you buy in the store.
It's okay. I'm going to send you my mailing address. That's fine.
Sounds good.
I'll share with Bridget. Don't worry.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Jeanette, so much. This was really, really interesting. I think we've all learned a lot.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.